When you go to look for an apartment, when you're looking online, when you're looking at apartments.com, when you're talking to an apartment locator, when you say you want to spend a specific amount of money, okay, let's just say we want to spend $1,400 on a one bedroom, right? What does that mean? That's $1,400 as your base rent. When you go into an apartment and they ask you what your budget is, they're not including fees, they're not including your water, they're not including electricity. So you have to be very clear and understand like what it is and how much you want to spend, right? Because sometimes, depending on what part of the city you're going to be living in, you could have fees like up to like $100 a month on parking. I know it's crazy, I don't make up the rules, but that could be a possibility. So making sure you're very clear and you know how much you want to spend. But this is also something to intake is you only need to make 3 times the amount of the base rent. So like just the base, not. So when you go look for an apartment, what is your budget? Let me help you kind of determine on like what that should be, because when you go in and you tell a leasing agent or you tell your apartment locator or like you're looking online, there is going to be a base rent, a market rent. What is that? That is what the minimum for the apartment is. So and depending on, especially when you're clicking online, to be very careful because it might say, hey, this unit's only like $1,380, right? But when you click on it, it's gonna have like a 15-month lease term, but you're only looking for 6 months, or you're only looking for 12 months. Like it could be variant on that, because honestly, a 12 month to a 13 month could be vastly different by, sometimes it's like $20, sometimes it could be $100, like you never know, or more. So it's very important to make sure you're getting your lease terms right on there. But where I'm going with this is your rental amount is your base rent. That is like no fees, no electric, no water, no internet. Like that all-encompass rent, like all included, doesn't really exist. Sometimes in like tax credit properties, which are low income, sometimes it exists there, or you're renting from like a mom and pop. Sometimes you get lucky there, but most of the time landlords do separate that because one, they don't want to pay for your usage, and they don't want, like it just makes it so much easier for them, which then makes it easier for you because then you're paying for your own usage, right? Versus having it allocated, which means that you're paying for the whole building. So what does that mean? If you go and tell me that you want to spend $1,400 or you're looking online for $1,400 for a one bedroom, well, then it's just going to be $1,400. And then if you're living in Texas, we're going to have fees such as your amenity fee. There's typically always an amenity fee. That's them keeping up with the grounds, keeping up with the pools, making sure the gym equipment's up to date, stuff like that. And I know some of you are like, well, I pay $60 a month. And they don't do any of that. I don't make the rules, it's just what they are. So they do have an amenity fee. And then after that, there's going to be, so after the amenity fee, there's fees such as like pest control. So honestly, like it's really cheap. It's typically really affordable. It's only like I've seen it like $3 up to like $10 a month, which is very high end. But typically it's around $5 a month. From there, and they usually come out like once a week and stuff. So that one's really, really good to have. Make sure you're all good to go, especially on the first floor because it's Texas and roaches are real. Then have a pet. Sometimes a pet fee can be, sometimes they charge monthly, sometimes it's just a deposit. That just all depends on whatever that's going to be, but that's all varying on the property. I can't say what's normal, what's not, because I've seen it crazy amounts and I've seen it really cheap. So definitely look at the pet fees. If you have a pet, if it's an ESA, you bypass all fees and you don't have to worry about that. And the other fee is going to be trash. There's typically always a trash fee, whether you have valet trash or you don't have anything, you're still going to be paying for it if you bring it to the dumpster. That's just for trash collection and then taking it off the property. But other than that, you'll have renter's insurance, depending on who you use. If you do bundle, that's all going to be very variant. You could also use what they provide you. Sometimes they will provide you with an insurance, and that can be expensive too, right? I don't have all the answers on that because that's just completely variant. You most of the time just need $100,000 in coverage. Some cities now are making it up to $200,000, but normally it's just $100,000. We can always ask and verify that when you get to the application process. Now, you will have to pay for your own water. So sometimes it's sub-metered and sometimes it's allocated. I personally prefer it to be sub-metered. That means you're paying for your own usage. Allocated is going to mean that it's on the whole entire building, and they do some mathematical equations and boom, there's your water bill. And so I don't really like it that way. I prefer it to be the other way. But anyway, there's also the same thing can happen for electricity. So you can have it allocated or it can be sub-metered. And again, it's going to be on your own usage. That's why it's always I would recommend living in a newer building because you're gonna have more energy efficient appliances, and that's gonna help with water and electricity. So definitely want to make sure you're taking all accounts into consideration, because just because an older community is gonna save you $20 a month, it's most likely not going to on your water bill and your electric bill. But that's a quick and dirty version. So that $1,400 can go from $1,400 to $1,600 real quick. So you definitely want to make sure that, but you only have to make 3 times the amount of the $1,400, right? Like that was my example in the base rent. So your base rent can go up to, I always say, account for an extra $200 a month, just because life happens and things happen. A winter storm could happen and your electric bill could go up, you know, X, Y, and Z. So your base rent is what you have to make 3 times the amount. Everything else is just like extra, but you don't have to make 3 times like the all-encompassing amount. So hopefully that's helpful on your next apartment search. If you ever need help, I am here. I do all of the cities in Texas, and I'd love to help.